Imagine a world where people believed that rats could spontaneously burst into existence from old rags and rotting meat. Sounds absurd, right? But this was a common belief in the 17th century, and it took a lot of hard work and brilliant minds to change people's understanding of nature. One of these brilliant minds was Konrad Gesner, a man who lived in the 16th century and revolutionized the way we think about the natural world. Konrad Gesner was born into a poor family in Zurich, Switzerland, in 1516. Despite his humble beginnings, he was a prodigious learner. By the time he was 20, he had already written a Greek-Latin dictionary. Over the next 30 years, he wrote 70 volumes on every conceivable subject, from languages to animals. His most famous work, the Bibliotheca Universalis, aimed to catalog every book that had ever existed in Latin, Greek, and Hebrew. This monumental task earned him the title of the Father of Bibliography. Gesner's curiosity and love for nature led him to become a modern Pliny, a famous Roman naturalist. He was inspired by an encyclopedic Greek manuscript he found in the library of the Fuggers, a wealthy banking family. This manuscript sparked his interest in the natural world, and he decided to create a comprehensive encyclopedia of animals. His Historia Animalium was a groundbreaking work that described everything known, speculated, imagined, or reported about all known animals. Like Pliny, Gesner included a lot of folklore and fantastic tales, but he also added new information that had accumulated over the past 1,500 years. One of the most remarkable aspects of Gesner's work was his collaboration with artists. He included over 1,000 woodcuts in his books, which were the most accurate and detailed illustrations of animals at the time. These illustrations helped readers visualize the creatures he described, from the vulgar little mouse to the mythical satyr and sphinx. His depiction of the rhinoceros, drawn by the famous artist Albrecht Dürer, was particularly notable. Gesner's influence extended beyond his own time. His work was translated into various languages, and one of the most popular translations was by Edward Topsell, an English naturalist. Topsell's History of Four-Footed Beasts, Serpents, and Insects, 1658, brought Gesner's work to a wider audience. In this book, Topsell described fantastical creatures like the gorgon, a beast that could kill with its gaze, and the unicorn, which was said to be attracted to virgins. Despite the fantastical elements, Gesner's detailed illustrations and descriptions helped lay the foundation for modern biology. Gesner's interests were not limited to animals. He was also fascinated by plants and languages. His Opera Botanica included nearly 1,000 drawings of plants, many of which he had drawn himself. He even wrote a book called Mithridates, which described and compared over 130 languages from around the world. In this book, he provided translations of the Lord's Prayer in various languages, including the first vocabulary of the Gypsy language. Gesner's love for nature also led him to explore the mountains, a place that was often seen as a source of fear and danger. In 1555, he climbed Mount Pilatus near Lucerne and wrote a paean to mountaineering. He described the beauty and variety of the mountains, where one could experience all 4 seasons in a single day. His enthusiasm for exploring the high mountains helped pave the way for modern mountaineering, although it would take another 2 centuries before the first successful ascent of Mont Blanc in 1786. The concept of species was crucial to the development of natural history. Before naturalists like Gesner, plants and animals were often arranged alphabetically or by their human uses. This made it difficult to understand the relationships between different organisms. The idea of a species provided a way to categorize plants and animals based on their shared characteristics, rather than their names or uses. One of the most significant contributors to the concept of species was John Ray, an English naturalist who lived in the 17th century. Ray studied at Trinity College, Cambridge, and became a fellow of the college. However, his refusal to take an oath accepting everything in the Book of Common Prayer led to the loss of his fellowship. This turned out to be a fortunate event, as it allowed him to focus on his scientific interests. Ray met Francis Willoughby, a wealthy young man, and the two became close friends. They shared a passion for natural history and formed a grand plan to create a comprehensive system of nature. Ray would focus on plants, while Willoughby would focus on animals. Unfortunately, Willoughby died at the age of 37, but Ray continued their work and published several important books. Ray's definition of species was a significant breakthrough. He defined a species as a group of organisms that could interbreed and produce fertile offspring. This definition applied to both plants and animals, and provided a clear and consistent way to classify living things. Ray's work laid the foundation for the modern system of taxonomy, which was further developed by Carl Linnaeus in the 18th century. Linnaeus, a Swedish naturalist, is often called the Father of modern taxonomy. He introduced a system of binomial nomenclature, where each species is given a unique two-part name consisting of a genus and a species. This system made it possible to identify and classify species across different languages and cultures. Linnaeus's work was so influential that it is still used today. The development of the concept of species was not without its challenges. One of the biggest obstacles was the belief in spontaneous generation, the idea that life could arise from non-living matter. This belief was widely accepted, even by respected scientists like Jan Baptista van Helmont, who claimed to have seen rats spontaneously generate from bran and old rags. However, the work of naturalists like Francisco Redi and Anton van Leeuwenhoek began to challenge this idea. Redi conducted experiments that showed that maggots only appeared on meat if flies were allowed to lay their eggs on it. Leeuwenhoek's microscope revealed the intricate structures of tiny animals, making it harder to believe that they could spontaneously arise from putrefying matter. Despite these findings, the debate over spontaneous generation continued for centuries. The issue of spontaneous generation had theological implications, as some scientists saw it as a way to explain the origin of life without invoking a divine creator. Louis Pasteur, a devout Catholic and brilliant experimentalist, conducted experiments that finally disproved the idea of spontaneous generation. He showed that microorganisms in the air could cause fermentation, and that heating and excluding these microorganisms could prevent it. This work helped establish the concept of species as a fundamental unit of biological classification. The idea of species has been refined and expanded over the years, but it remains a crucial concept in biology. It provides a way to understand the diversity of life and the relationships between different organisms. The work of naturalists like Gesner, Ray, and Linnaeus has helped us build a comprehensive and systematic understanding of the natural world. In conclusion, the journey from the belief in spontaneous generation to the modern concept of species is a story of human curiosity, perseverance, and scientific progress. Konrad Gesner, John Ray, and Carl Linnaeus were key figures in this journey, and their work continues to influence our understanding of the natural world today. Their contributions remind us that the pursuit of knowledge is a never-ending adventure, and that the more we learn, the more we realize how much there is still to discover.